Explained by the Billy Meier contacts. Mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more. Compiled by David Chance, revised October 18, 2023.
Holocaust, the Holocaust, Holocaust victims. See also Adolf Hitler. See also Pope Pius XII. Contact Report 238.
I have very extensive knowledge of both the First and Second World Wars on the Earth. There is probably no section in this respect to which I could not give you exhaustive information regarding any questions.
Thank you. Then I would like to ask you the following question. How many people were murdered by the Nazi regime in view of the fact that they were of Jewish faith or otherwise Jewish? In short, the question is actually, how many Jews and Jewish allies were murdered by the Nazi Gentiles, etc.? In this regard, it was explained to me that the figures given by Jewish organizations did not correspond to the truth, that it was indeed much fewer Jews who were killed by the Nazi regime than is claimed. This question and explanation came to me from the American side.
This explanation is also correct. Truthfully, not 6 to 8 million Jews were murdered, but only 4.07 million of them, if I may speak of only with regard to murdered human lives. The deceitful figure of 6 to 8 million Jewish deaths is a pure and maliciously purposeful invention, through which things were achieved with the help of the world, so that an Israelite state could be established that could not have been accomplished otherwise. The lying assertion that more than 6 or 8 million Jewish believers have been murdered by the Nazi regime is only a purpose and profit-related work of people who are still at work today, who terrorize the world with discord and murder, mostly by the Secret Service minions, who do not want constant peace, but only more power and more land, and so on. What is fact, however, with regard to murders in the Third Reich by the Nazi regime, is that not only Jewish believers in the number of 4.07 million, but also Jewish friends, Jewish helpers and other Jews were murdered by gassing, shooting, drowning, burning, killing, hanging, starvation and medical experiments, etc. But also criminals of all kinds were killed in the same process, as well as antisocial people of all kinds, alcoholics, drug addicts, lunatics, confused ones, mentally ill ones, and mongoloids, as well as terminally ill ones, etc., etc. Gypsies such as Sinti and Roma members were also abducted, put in concentration camps, and murdered, along with many others who were not sympathetic to the Nazi regime or who violated its insane rules or simply did not fit into its concept. In this way, in addition to the actual believers in Judaism, there were their further 3.73 million humans who were very often cruelly handed over to death by the Nazi regime. Thus, in the end, there were a total of 7.8 million people who were murdered by racist and cleansing action machinations of the Nazis, which corresponds to about 1/6 of the total number of all war victims of the Second World War.
Contact Report 672, 20th Century Denial of the Holocaust. The Holocaust of the National Socialists never existed. False. Contact Report 823.
At that time, Adolf Hitler also came into play, and that already during the World War 1914 to 1918 when he, as an Austrian, assimilated in Germany and went to war together with Jew-haters, who indoctrinated him with their hatred of Jews, and he became an unparalleled Jew-hater. When he then managed to come to power in Germany and proclaimed the Great German Reich, the persecution of the Jews really began, forming the Holocaust, and millions upon millions were murdered in gas chambers, beaten to death, and shot.
Contact Report 824. Excerpt from the introduction to a new book being written at the time by Billy. Lehre der Schöpfungsenergie, teaching of creation energy. The Nazis, that is to say National Socialists, murdered about 7.1 million, according to Plieren-dated Jews, during the World War 1939 to 1945. This is repeatedly disputed by Holocaust deniers, but according to the Plieren this figure is correct. Of these, over 4 million were murdered in so-called extermination camps, that is to say concentration camps, such as Auschwitz and Bergen-Belsen. For this, the death transports to the extermination camps were mostly organized by the unscrupulous war criminal and Obersturmbannführer Adolf Eichmann, who then fled to South America after the war, but was investigated by the Israeli Secret Service in South America and brought to Israel, brought before a court, sentenced to death by the court and executed by hanging on the 1st of June, 1962. Around 2.2 million more Jews were killed according to Plieren data, by massacres by the Wehrmacht in war zones and in the Russian campaign, while around 900,000 more Jewish believers, former Jewish believers or simply those who were friendly to Jews, were murdered, who resided in the countries of Europe and also in Eurasia, but were not registered as Jews. They may not have openly professed the Jewish faith, but as a rule were simply of Jewish descent, which is why they were considered Jews according to the erroneous Nazi racial law, and were therefore murdered by the National Socialists. At that time, the Jewish people lived scattered and dispersed throughout the countries of Europe and the territories of Eurasia, numbering some 11 to 12 million, who were to be completely exterminated by Hitler's regime. Especially many were in Ukraine, where the Jews were persecuted and murdered at an early age. Contact Report 838.
But the truth will still remain, and so will the ideology of eradicating the unworthy of life among those human beings who want to eradicate everything, as Darwin had in mind, who had the idiotic view that every life is unworthy if it does not correspond to perfection. The physically handicapped, the sick, homosexuals, lesbians, Jews, Sinti, Roma, criminals, felons and vagrants, etc. were also persecuted and eliminated by Heinrich Himmler, the author of the Holocaust, who was influenced by Darwin's anti-human ideas and adopted them and perfected them according to his métier. There are probably still written records of his misanthropic views and his erroneous point of view. In any case, he said at the time that he would do this, that it was hirnrissig, if I may use the word for my own sake, that humanity could be so stupid as to do something that was against nature.